Hello everybody, Doc here. Thanks for joining me on the second episode of LABventures Studios Builds. This is episode 2, LV CONCO Builds. Today, we're focusing on the builders and how they've built Studio One. You can see in the background there, on the right, our builder is using Creative Mode. Creative Mode is great. It gives you access to all of the blocks in Minecraft and all of the mods you have installed without worrying about running out. Also, it gives you the ability to fly, which means that you can build something as large as this, Studio One, quickly, efficiently, and without worrying about anything other than following the plan or being creative. This build used a number of blocks, but primarily 3. Some are just window dressing, like this green wool being put down, which is to become our green screen in Studio One. But the actual studio is built out of tin. You see being used for the exterior wall, white tin, and for the interior wall, a dark tin. The third material that is the most prominent is scaffolding. Scaffolding is interesting because when you use it, you can remove the bottom block and the entire scaffold will come down. This can be good, but it can also be bad. It's great in regular survival mode whenever you want to build something and then quickly remove it. It can also be used as a ladder. Here, we've asked the builders to use it for purely aesthetic reasons. You can see in the background the scaffold going up. So, as our builder finishes the last wall of Studio One, I'll draw your attention to the left, where the main building, the office building, is now mostly complete. We're not going to watch it being built, but I will point out that the builder who did this build was very creative. As I said in my first video, no specific plan was followed, no specific footprint laid, simply a foundation, and then he followed his heart, based on what would essentially be an Art Deco design. We'll revisit this building in a future episode once it is completed and take a tour. But until then, let's watch the roof being put on Studio One. Uh-oh. It looks like we're a little too late. Our builder's going to get wet while he builds. Come on, builder. Let's get that roof up. One interesting thing about using Creative Mode in this way is it really gives you the freedom within all of the different forms, shades, textures, and even texture packs. In our case, we've installed Pure BD Craft, which is by Sphax. Most people just refer to it as Sphax. Simply changing the texture pack is enough to change the entire look of everything in your Minecraft world. Ah, look! The roof. We've cut ahead now, and the roof is mostly complete. I tell you what, let's go inside and watch it being built from a different angle. Here we go. That looks good. As the builder finishes up the roof, we see the inside is very, very dark. Now, we want this studio to look a certain way. Again, with this build, we've gone based on images and photographs that we want it to eventually look like. So, in order to get there from where we are now, we need to think about which blocks would be the best. Now, one very important part of a studio is the ability for it to be dark. But we also don't want bad guys spawning inside of our movie set. So let's put some lights up. There are two types of lamps in this Feed the Beast mod. The type that we're seeing laid down here are actually what are called inverted lamps. This means that unless they receive a signal, they'll be on all the time. So first, we see rows upon rows of these lamps being put up, sort of like fluorescent lighting. And then the builder will go back and put a redstone signal on every one of them so that the entire array can be turned on and off. What you see here is each one turning off in turn. In order for him to be able to work, he then turned off the entire signal. When the signal is off, the lights are on. Now we see him testing. It looks great. You'll notice it doesn't go as dark as it did before they were installed. This is because the redstone signal, which is on, is also giving off a slight light source. This is good. It means that our studio will never be completely dark. Now what we see him doing is extending those crosswalks and making sure that all of the different scaffolds connect. This is important because lamps are going on those scaffold as well. This is one thing that we did not have a specific plan for. So you see now the builder is testing a few different designs to see what works the best and what looks the best. It looks like we've found a design that works. These blocks are actually regular lamps. You'll notice they're not on because they're not receiving a redstone signal. It's also important to know that regular redstone, if laid down, loses its signal after a while. So instead of using regular redstone, we're actually using a red wire alloy, which allows us to lay as much as we need, and as long as we don't get too far away from the chunk so that it doesn't load, it will allow the signal to do whatever we want it to do. Putting them on different circuits with two different levers means we can light everything or either of these lights. The final touch is to put an inverted lamp of a different style in between so that when one is off, the other is on. By using a dark red, we can ensure that even when the lights are off and the safety lights are on, it won't be too lit for us to make the shots that we need to make. Well, that about wraps it up. With the interior finished and furnished, we now see that our studio looks the way we want, and with a few finishing touches on the outside, the whole thing is beautiful. Next time, let's go outside and watch as some of our exterior sets, like our clock tower square and storefronts, are built.